Hey guys, Peter here to tell you about the latest from Mono Inc. Ravenblack, out January 27th on No Cut Entertainment. This album has 11 tracks, 50 minutes in length, and this is the band's 12th full-length studio album. They are a German gothic rock band. From a design point of view, I am in love with this album. It has all the right ingredients to be fluid, to be dynamic, to be engaging, to still be balanced, but also extremely entertaining. You have to look at how everything comes together. 3 songs play pivotal roles. You have Angels Never Die and After Dark, 2 songs that have features in them, and features that have an impact in the sound, in the experience, in the vocal performance, and they are in key spots in the first third and last third of the record. And then in between you have Lieb Mich, a German song that allows those 2 cornerstones to better connect themselves. So when you look at these 3 tracks, they almost become pit stops in the overall journey of listening to the album, allowing the other songs to be a little bit more balanced, to be a little bit more cohesive, be broken up by these tracks in their own individual characteristics, making the album still feel very connected, extremely engaging, because you have these breaks that add a different flow, a different vibe, a different experience to the album, and it doesn't allow the record to overall feel repetitive, boring, or mundane. This is a very energetic album, even though songs sometimes are not filled with energy, rather melancholy, but the overall experience that you get out of listening to this album is one of energy, always pushing you forward, a record that never allows you to look back, but rather engage yourself with what the experience is going to be just around the corner. Great design all around. As far as the sound is concerned, I love the crisp nature of the sound, a sound that allows the vocals to be in the forefront. If there is a driver of the experience, a driver of the record, is definitely the overall vocal performance and everything that comes with it. The sound is there to compensate the gaps, is there to fill in the soundtrack of the existence of this album, and it does it extremely well. Not following into any patterns, a little bit more rock here, a little bit more melancholic there, inserting incredible keyboards and piano sequences that add so much value, not just to the songs themselves, but to the overall perception that the listener will have of this record, increasing the sense of melancholy, increasing the sense of darkness that this album has. The piano really defines it extremely well, not overly used, but used just in the right amounts in order for the songs to have an impact, in order for the songs to define their own individual fingerprint. Really important on any record to have ability to create strong individual songs, but never really lose track of what the collective is all about. And this album is just that. 11 great singles, 11 great tracks that actually coexist extremely well with one another. I honestly feel like some songs on this record add value not just to the song that comes after, but to the song that comes before, because the experience that you take from track to track is one that allows you to grow with the same growth that the record offers musically and vocally. Now within this sound, the drums have a very balanced and cohesive role. There's really not much to say about the drum sound on this record. It's good and it's perfect for the album that they created, but it doesn't try to do too much or go too far. I love the bass and how much it pops in the mix on this album. I think if you're creating a little bit of a dark sounding record with some deep melancholic moments, the bass is going to play an important role in creating that experience, and I found that that's exactly the approach that they took on this album. Within the sound, the guitars are probably the most dynamic, the most lively element that this record offers. A lot of the direction of where the sound is going or where the tracks are heading is derived from the guitar, the execution, the sound, and what you get from them. When you look at all the elements that the guitars offer, you have to perceive the solos as perhaps one of the most important elements, because it's the only time that you feel like the guitars are a little bit coming out of the shadows and into the spotlight, and you're able to see exactly the beauty that they have and the energy that they're adding to the songs, or the darkness that they're adding to the songs. It really depends on where you are within this record or where you are from song to song. But the solo performances on this album add incredible value to the overall design and the overall execution that the songs offer, sometimes extending the tracks, making them a little bit longer, allowing for your journey to be a little prolonged, and sometimes infusing a little bit of energy, a little bit of light, that light at the end of the tunnel that's so important when you have an album that overall has a little bit of a dark blanket over it. So I really enjoy the guitar solos first and foremost from an overall guitar point of view, because like I said, it's the first time within any single song that you see the guitars pushing themselves out of that shadow and into the spotlight. But everything else that they do is extremely well done, either be the melodies or the shift into a more rock and roll driven sound, or pushing more into a melancholic drop, knowing exactly the ebbs and flows that the tracks need within themselves, but also the ebbs and flows that you need from song to song, allowing the existence of the guitars to be connected in terms of what the starting point of that sound is, but allowing them to be diverse in terms of where they're heading and where their final destination is going to be. As far as the vocals are concerned, this album is extremely strong vocally from start to finish. I love everything about it. Martin's voice is outstanding. It has warmth to it. It has a little bit of a deepness to it. There's a little bit of a sorrow aspect to it, a little bit of a dark embrace that comes with this tonality, that comes with his delivery. Even in songs that perhaps have a little bit more brightness to them, he's always able to still carry that darkness with it, and that allows it to be a little bit of the connecting point between every single song that this album has. So his voice is extremely balanced, extremely cohesive from start to finish, but I honestly don't feel like you need to change that. You just need to be who you are and deliver that steady performance that allows the tracks to have that sense of balance between them. And then you have the additions. I love the layers, the texture, the female vocals. What can I say? Cather's vocals are outstanding on this record. I honestly feel like this is such a rich album vocally that almost takes precedent over everything else that is happening. I just always find myself mesmerized when I'm listening to this record in terms of the balances that they created, the harmonies that they created, sometimes even almost a duet in some of these choruses in terms of how the two vocals are working with one another in parallel with one another, really merging well and giving a lot of life to the record. But all the backing vocals that this album has are really well done, creating layers, but layers that add volume, that add presence, always with Catherine in the forefront so that she can lead those charges with everything else behind it. It becomes this texture effect as far as the vocal performance is concerned, with a main vocalist in the forefront and then an array of secondary vocalists that add so much to the overall essence of the album, with her in the forefront leading that secondary row of vocalists. Outstanding work from start to finish. Every single song, you just feel like you're getting so much out of the vocal performance that's impossible not to take notice of how impactful it is across each and every single track. All around, one of the best. I think this is going to be one of the top albums as far as rock is concerned of 2023, because this is not really a metal record. This is a pure rock record, gothic rock record, and from that point of view, it's going to be very hard to surpass an album that is this well designed, this well executed, that has this sort of flow, that is this engaging, this memorable. I mean, this is a memorable record all around. It doesn't matter what song you decide to play, it doesn't matter what song you decide to check out. And also in the features, if you're going to add features to an album, you have to add value, not just adding features because you want to have a little bit of a selling point, a little bit of a marketing point. This record used the features in its essence. You got the most out of them, and they added some of who they are as musicians and as bands into the overall design and into the overall execution and atmosphere that comes out of those tracks. So from this point of view, it's an almost perfect. It's really hard to find flaws on this record, either be musically or vocally or even from a construction standpoint. So as far as rock albums are concerned, this is going to be the bar for 2023. As far as favorite songs are concerned, I have to start with Angels Never Die. This is my favorite song in the entire album. I don't understand how this song was not a single. Let me just start off by saying that. This track has massive Nick Cave vibes in the vocals, in the harmonies, in the atmosphere, and definitely in that piano sound that leads the melancholic charge of this track. Is there at the beginning, it becomes a little bit part of the somber atmosphere, of the somber sound that the track puts forward as it progresses. The female vocals on this track, the layered vocals on this track are outstanding. The way this chorus comes at you, it breathes life, but in that life there's a sense of darkness at the exact same time, because with death comes new life. And that's exactly how this song feels like not just from a vocal performance, but even how it moves from verses into chorus. And then with a great solo to complement the overall energy of the track, you have just this perfect ballad of a banger. This is a memorable track. This is an outstanding track musically and vocally. The piano throughout sounds phenomenal. The guitar is very smooth in their transitions and how they add themselves, as much as the drums, as they add themselves to the overall volume of the track. But once again, it comes down to the vocal performance, to the layers, to the additions, to how the vocals interact with one another, and how everything comes together in that beautiful chorus, beautiful sounding, beautiful performed chorus. Next we have Never Alone. The piano on this track adds a dark ambiance, which is kind of a fingerprint of the entire record when it comes to the piano, keyboard, or even orchestration sound. Always there to create an ambiance, always there to create a dark, somber nature to the track, an underbelly, if you will. Sometimes that underbelly a little bit more exposed than other times, but always a little bit of that same impact on every song that you see those elements creeping up into the forefront. Stripping down the song as well, allowing the song at times to be really stripped down, allowing the vocals to be in the forefront, a little bit more commanding, allowing them to shine, allowing them to take center stage. And then you have some moments that between both sets of vocals on this track, with the female vocals coming in, it almost feels like you're listening to a duet. And that's really interesting because it adds texture, it adds volume, it increases the size of the song without changing too much to its dynamics and to its core, becoming a direct pop rock song at times in terms of how everything comes together. Specifically, you're going to see that more in how the track moves, in the movement of the track, but overall the vocal layers, the movement that exists between chorus and verses, allowing you to feel all the necessary ebbs and flows in order to give great life, great energy to this track. If there's one thing that I would change about how this song sounds, is that duet of vocals, female and male vocals, works so well that you almost want to push the female vocals a little bit further. And I think there was room in this song to really push it a lot further and give it more of a spotlight. But the solo extends the track, and I don't think there was any room for anything else. It still sounds phenomenal. I love how the pairing, that harmony of vocals works so well. And because of that, because of the way the solo extends the track, it really became easily one of my favorite songs on this record. Last but not least, Day of Reckoning. Mellow rock track, that's how I'm going to call it. It's really a mellow rock track. It doesn't have an up-tempo. It's a song that has more of a controlled environment to it. The drums and guitars really laying the groundwork to the overall song that allows the vocals then to travel on top of it, bringing some diversity of approaches vocally. This is one of the most diverse vocal tracks on the record because of how it's put together, because they change some of the dynamics, and because that you feel like there are different levels to what the vocal performance is all about. In previous tracks, or almost on every single song on this album, the patterns vocally are pretty steady, are pretty similar. They may change some dynamics between verses and chorus, but everything stays very close to home. You can almost expect exactly what you're going to get out of it vocally. This song throws a few different elements at the listener, allowing you to kind of perk up, and even though the sound may come across a little bit familiar to some of the previous tracks, not necessarily sound-wise, but in terms of the overall construction and definition, those changes in the vocal performance on what they added to the vocal performance allows this track to jump out of the crowd, if you will. Still a very balanced song musically from start to finish, but more contained on the musical side, a little bit more diverse on the vocals. Really nice to see a little bit of a difference of paradigm from the rest of the album, which tends to be a lot more controlled in terms of the execution of the vocals, not in terms of the quantity of layers in them, and a little bit more diverse in the sound. This is it, Mono Inc. with Ravenblack, out January 27th on No Cut Entertainment. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.